Gasoline prices rose 3 cents in the past 2 weeks, a total of 11 cents over a month. The new average for a regular grade is $2.61.
This is CBS News.
This is John Greenhut, and if your teeth are stained from coffee, tea, or smoking, Power Swabs is the answer. In 5 minutes, you'll see 2 shades whiter teeth, and in 7 days, 6 shades. Even better, there's no messy strips or trays that you'll have to leave in your mouth for an hour. Just swab your teeth for 5 minutes, and you're done. To try Power Swabs, call 1-800-679-0969. Your bright white smile will have your friends talking about how great you look. Try it risk-free. 1-800-679-0969. That's 1-800-679-0969.
At our home, winter nights are complicated. Either I end up freezing,
or I'm sweating.
Hi, I'm Missy Tannen.
And I'm Scott Tannen, founders of Boll & Branch, the world's most comfortable sheets.
And now, we've created the world's first luxury flannel bedding, available for a limited time at bollandbranch.com. Try them risk-free for 30 nights.
Go to bollandbranch.com today for $50 off your first set, plus free shipping with promo code SLEEP. Spelled B-O-L-L and branch.com. Promo code SLEEP.
Good afternoon. You're listening to AM 1080 KSCO Radio Santa Cruz, 404 on a beautiful Sunday evening. Afternoon, really, still. Hope everyone's doing good. I'm Jason Struby. Let's get a quick look at your traffic. And a reminder, you still got a couple hours to get your stuff down here and get in on the tail end of the weekend Doc Wallach product special. 2300 Portola Drive. Let's get in on the traffic. 1 north to Santa Cruz, all clear through Aptos and the whole Santa Cruz corridor. Moss Landing, a bit of traffic there northbound toward Dolan Road. 101. We've got miles of traffic northbound, typical for your Sunday afternoon commute. Approaching Gilroy. Looks like you're stuck in it there for a good 4 to 5 miles. Looks like 68 and Highway 1 through Monterey County are clear. 152, 156, 183, Highway 9, 218, all looking good throughout the Central Coast for now. Collision reported 307 on Preston Street on the 11,000 block in front of Our Lady of Refugee Church. Also a collision just before 3, 101 northbound at Sargent's, lingering on the board there. No injuries, thankfully. Traffic hazard 101 northbound at the 152. We've got a male running around in the road. Jumping over the center divider. Not good. Definitely avoid him. Weather tonight, cloudy, a low near 50. Tomorrow, sunny and warmer, a high near 70 degrees for Santa Cruz. It's 4:06. Time now for the Veterans Take Charge Radio Show with your host, Justin Baker and Dave Ramos.
We've been setting the stage of conflict and adversity, corruption and casualties, physical, mental, and emotional traumas. But today we take charge. Today, we look with integrity and hope. Today, we extend to our battle buddies who are suffering, and we offer support and guidance in ways that are specialized and unique to us. Today, we stand together. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Welcome to the Veterans Take Charge Radio Show.
Wait a minute!
Yo, proud and steadfast, folks. Welcome to the Veterans Take Charge Radio Show. My name is Dave Ramos, former combat medic, Sergeant 68 Whiskey in the United States Army. And on my right, as always, my battle buddy for life,
former U.S. Army Ranger Justin Baker. Welcome to today's show.
Yo, happy birthday, man.
Thank you.
I'm going to give you a happy birthday high five.
I made it to middle age. Even though middle age has been pushed back to 60, I'm only 36. But we're changing the game.
Is that like quarter age?
The human genetic potential is 120 years, so why are we saying the middle age is in our 30s or our 40s? right? We need to raise the bar.
Conditioning, man.
I think today's interview might help us do that.
I am very much looking forward to that. Hey, but real quick, before we get into this week, let's recap last week. So last week we had a lot of people here in studio with us, and it was awesome. I love having Tony Verretta in studio. I love having him in studio.
You know, Army Rangers, man. I just don't know what it is.
You know,
just love those guys.
Yeah, right. We may be biased, but whatever. Colonel Brown was on the phone with us for the first hour with Tony. Again, another Army Ranger. We were talking about Veterans Day. We were talking about what Veterans Day means to us. We were talking about the parade that we were in, and just recapping all of the goodness that is.
The Veterans Day parade it blew my mind how well put together it was. It was a logistical nightmare, I have no doubt, even though I didn't have to do any type of logistics involving the event, but you can see it from the ground.
That parade committee was on point.
There was 125 different cars and loaded up with veterans driving through the parade. They had to track all that. They had to figure out the line that they were going to go in and the route and how the crowd was going to stay back and not rip our clothes off of us because we're all so sexy. I mean, they had to manage all of that, you know. There was one little flaw that I found in the whole parade, and that was it. And that was the fact that they didn't know our names when they introduced the Veterans Take Charge radio show. Aside from that, the event was absolutely perfect.
That's our fault, but whatever. Next year is going to be even that much better.
So we will be there.
Also in studio, we had Terry Plank and Travis DeYoung of Vets for Vets, and we're talking about the upcoming events on December 9th and the 16th. We're going to be screening the movie Almost Sunrise, which follows, it's a documentary, and it follows two Iraq veterans, Tom Voss and Anthony Anderson, and their struggles with post-traumatic stress and the realities and the impacts of war. And instead of committing suicide, they decide to walk from Wisconsin to freaking L.A., 2,700 miles, all the while raising awareness for the plight of the veteran. And we talked about what's going to be happening after the movie screening. It's going to be a discussion panel on both events, again, on the 9th of December as well as the 16th of December. And the discussion panel is going to be on point and very good because we're going to be talking about post-traumatic stress, post-traumatic growth, moral injury, and recovery, rehabilitation, and repair. And I'm very excited about this because moral injury is something that is a new trigger term. I shouldn't say trigger term, but it's a new term that's out there that's got a lot of attention on it. With moral injury, Josh Montz, you know, his book has passed the Pentagon and it's getting ready to drop on January 1st. It's called The Beauty of a Darker Soul, and it's all about moral injury.
Did you notice on several occasions here in studio, we literally have live examples of it. And I would say Terrence Plank exhibited that on the broadcast last week. When a veteran is telling his war story and he comes to tears, that proves to me that there is something left inside of him that remains unresolved, right? And for me, I know that I have survivor guilt. Even, you know, I was blessed. I didn't have too much direct firefight with enemy forces, but I had enough to know that it's not a game. Your life can be snuffed out in a millisecond, and that's what they're trying to do to you when you're over there. And that's what we're trying to do to them. And I hold some of that inside of me now, you know, 12 years later. The brothers that we didn't bring home, I feel that pain. Yeah. I miss them. And that to me that's my moral injury. And when we have a veteran in studio telling war stories with us, you know, Terrence was a 6-team fire team member doing long-range reconnaissance patrols in Vietnam with the 101st Airborne.
He was a rifleman and a medic.
He was a medic. And so, you know, he's the guy that got the blood on his hands over there, and he broke down in here. He had a hard time holding it together, and I can relate to that feeling. And to me, that's a perfect example of the moral injury that we're holding.
I'm really looking forward to the event on the 16th specifically. So the event on the 9th is going to take place over at Cabrillo at Samper Recital Hall. And on the 16th, the event's going to take place over at the Veteran Memorial Building, 846 Front Street. And I'm really excited about that one because Terrence is going to be on the discussion panel along with me.
Nice. Man, Terrence is a superstar, dude. I love that guy.
Yeah, very, very cool. So check out Vets for Vets Santa Cruz on Facebook for more information of that. Check out Veterans Take Charge on Facebook, KSCO Vets, for more information on that, as well as all the stuff that we push out through social media, all the things we keep you guys engaged and entertained with. There's always information coming out about events, programs, just funny stuff. Good stuff, thought-provoking stuff, plus our show notes.
Our Facebook page has got a lot of good stuff on it. And you for the most part, have been managing that about 100% lately as of late. Most part. And you're killing it, dude. Every time I go on the Facebook page, I'm more and more impressed with where it's going. Maybe that's because I peeled back a bit. And you pick really interesting articles to post. So I'm excited about the direction that Veterans Take Charge is taking. And in 2018, we're going to be integrating some business systems into this thing to make money and to help veterans make money. But Our primary concern is our health and your health. So today's interview is going to be about that. We want to help people get well. We want to help veterans heal naturally with less invasive methods. And so we're going to be discussing that with Nobel Prize nominated veterinarian and naturopathic doctor. He also has a bachelor's of science in soil science and animal husbandry, Dr. Joel Wallach, who is a personal hero of mine.
You know, before we get to Doc Wallach, real quick, I'm going to give a shout out and a big old high five to Keenan Roop, Air Force veteran, who's in studio.
How's
Welcome
it going, ladies
back.
and gentlemen.
Welcome back, Keenan.
It's good to have you back, man. It's very good to have you back.
How was the trip?
It was good. I definitely learned a lot, but I am definitely happy to be back here in California. You know, if you don't see the sun for a few days up there in Oregon, it starts to wear on you, and California has a special kind of something going on in the winter.
Yeah, we've got the climate. Everybody's after that.
I mean, there's a reason there's 55 million people in this state.
It's
Man,
the tacos.
That's a lot of people.
It's the tacos.
I do love the tacos.
Hey, let's talk to Doc Wallach.
Dr. Wallach, are you with us?
Justin, I am here.
Awesome. Thank you for being with us today, sir.
Well, you're very, very welcome. Thank you for having me.
Proud steadfast, sir. It's good to hear your voice again.
Doc, I wanted to touch on your military history because I've been listening to you on the radio for at least 7 or 8 years now. And I've got to be honest with you, the healing methods that the Veterans Administration have given me for my injuries and illnesses, they're not really designed to heal me. They're designed to prolong my suffering and give me more drugs is kind of the conclusion I've come to over 12 years of dealing with them. And they actually put in my notes that I have mental issues when I asked them, hey, when am I going to see some sort of healing from the prescriptions that you've been giving me? The only thing that's ever worked or showed any signs of progressing my condition has been your protocol. That was the most progress I've ever made. And so I have belief in you, sir. The fact that you're a military man, the fact that you served your country while you were doing this huge body of scientific research over the past 40 or 50 years, I mean, it blows my mind. Your work ethic blows my mind. I've had the opportunity to work personally with you on a few occasions doing health lectures, and pretty much everything about you impresses me, I've got to say.
You're very kind. Thank you, Justin.
Can we go into your military history a bit? I know some of what you do is a bit sensitive, so I don't want to touch on any classified information or anything like that. But tell us why you decided to join and when you joined and started doing service to the country.
Sure. Okay. In 1958, I graduated high school, and I was the first member of my family to go to college in August. 3 months later, went to the University of Missouri in Columbia, and entered into ag school so I could get my Bachelor of Science BS in agriculture, which you pointed out, animal husbandry and nutrition and soil science. And this is right in the middle of a lot of Southeast Asia stuff going on, 1958. And so it was required, and most people don't know this, but the University of Missouri is an A&M college, like Texas A&M, Florida A&M. And A&M is an acronym for agriculture and military. The federal government gives grants to these universities to do research and teach agricultural methods, to do research and teach military. And so we were obligated for 2 years, as soon as you went in, when you're a male, we were obligated in A&M University to join the ROTC at the university, and then you were not obligated to do any more than that. But we were taught tactics and military language and military science and so forth. And after my 2 years, I kind of liked it. I was an Eagle Scout, and my scoutmaster was a Second World War veteran, and all his assistant scoutmasters were veterans of the Korean War. And so it was kind of interesting that I really began to enjoy the military. And of course, I was a year and a half old when the Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor. All my uncles entered the Army Air Corps at that time, so I was very familiar with service. And so I liked it, and so I stayed in for the next 2 years. And when I graduated ag school, I was already 2 years into my veterinary science and 1 year into pathology. And so I stayed in, graduated also as an officer and gentleman, as a second lieutenant in the U.S. Army, attached to Fort Leonard Wood, 105s, 155s.
Cool.
And that was my beginning of my actual service as an active National Guard.
So now with all this stuff going on, sir, this was around the time of the big Red Scare and like the Cold War and whatnot.
Yes.
Did that have any kind of an impact? Was that always on the back of your mind?
Oh yes, and of course during the summer 2 weeks we would go to Hahn and Frankfurt, Germany, because as you point out, the Brandenburg Gate, and one of my responsibilities was to deal with nuclear, biological, and chemical warfare, which could be delivered by artillery or air weapons and so forth. And we would learn how to set up decontamination stations and teach people how to get into their protective garb when gases were dropped on them and these kind of things. Mm-hmm. And so I was getting deeper and deeper into that piece of it. And anytime there was something going on in the Brandenburg Gate between East and West Germany, they'd ship us over there, and we had to be prepared for anything, including NBC, nuclear, biological, chemical weapons. And to make a long story short, after 5 years of active, was it the Army National Guard, I joined the Air Force, in the A&G Air Force National Guard, and so I could move around a little easier. And we just did more of what we did in the Army National Guard, but we were traveling all over the place. And my main bases were George Air Force Base in California, Elmendorf in Alaska, and Hahn, Germany. And we just kept doing that triangle 4 or 5 times a year, and again training people to go through decontamination stations and recognize with monitors to actually identify gases and germs and all kinds of stuff. And it was quite the experience to do the traveling and deal with the military for that long. 20 years in the Air Force, combination of active and Air National Guard, and in the Army, ROTC, and also at the university level. And so I learned a lot. It was a great training, and I appreciate being able to serve the country and serve Americans. And I appreciate it when you say the Pledge of Allegiance at the beginning of the show.
Proud, steadfast, sir.
Thank you. We're proud of that as well.
Very much so.
So, Dr. Wallach, we're going to have to take a short commercial break just in a few more minutes here, but how are you still actively doing anything with the military? I mean, I know you're getting older now, but you seem to be the most active man of your you seem to be the most active man of your age that I've ever met.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I'm just short of 80, and but I do. We're actually working on a project by which we are going to, and some of it's going to be involving yourself and your group of friends and associates, where we want to get the 90 essential nutrients into the military, because most of the military problems like PTSD and depression and these sorts of things are actually caused by nutritional deficiencies, not seeing dead bodies on the battlefield.
So you're saying that mental health, definitely nutrition plays a role in mental health as well as physical health of the rest of the body?
Oh, absolutely. The brain, spinal cord require all 90 essential nutrients, 60 minerals, 16 vitamins, 12 acids, 3 fatty acids, and everything from ADD to ADHD, Tourette syndrome, hyperactivity, autism, depression, major depression, bipolar disease, which is PTSD when you're in civilian uniform. When you're in a military uniform, is PTSD. And then there's schizophrenia and psychoses. All of these are just simple nutritional deficiencies. Of course, when these people have these deficiencies, they're really on the edge of suicide, as you pointed out coming into the show today. They're on the edge of suicide to begin with, and they do really crazy things, including this Devin Patrick Kelly, this guy that shot up that church in Texas. The fascinating thing to me about him was he was actually, while he was active duty in the Air Force, he was collecting weapons to assassinate his commanding officers. And then he beat up his wife, and he got put in jail for a year for domestic violence and domestic abuse. And they failed to report in his records that year in jail, domestic abuse, and collecting weapons to assassinate his commanding officers. He should have never been given guns. And the people in the Air Force, I don't know who it was that failed to put that on his record, they should suffer some penalty, because they're the ones ultimately responsible for all that shooting in Texas.
Well, that could be like secondary and tertiary responsibility, right?
That's like a negligence issue or something. I mean, especially if it was out in the open like that, and his fellow teammates knew maybe that he was collecting weapons and being sporadic, Wow.
Yeah, well, he just found it on his social media, after all this stuff was over, and yeah, he'd been, when you're collecting weapons to purposely kill your commanding officers, he was paranoid, which is a deficiency of a single nutrient, and this is the same pattern that this Stephen Paddock had, the guy that shot up Vegas. He had the same deficiency, and he started collecting weapons in 2004 just to defend himself. He knew that all these people, he was paranoid, so all these people were after him, so he started accumulating the weapons to defend himself. He never was aggressive towards anybody else until a psychologist in June of this year gave him some antidepressant, antipsychotic drugs, and he became very aggressive at that point, and he decided he was not going to wait until they came after him. He was going to be proactive and go after them. But it was the drugs added to the deficiency that caused his aggression.
Wow. The idea of drugs adding to the deficiency. One of the things that's really kind of flipped me out is how anti-anxiety, depression meds, things like that, one of their side effects is increased suicidality. Why?
Yes.
How that just doesn't compute in my brain.
Let's take the break real quick, and when we come back, if we could have you answer that question, Doc, that would be awesome.
Love to do it.
All right, this is Veterans Take Charge Radio Show. We'll be right back after a brief message from our sponsors.
Justin and Dave, send our vets to the True Olive Connection for pain, inflammation, anxiety, and sleeplessness and more. The True Olive Connection has 0 THC CBD oil, which means no cards, no license needed, just pain-free, walking away with lots of love. At the True Olive Connection in downtown Santa Cruz and in Aptos. And we at the True Olive Connection want to thank you and your families for your service. We hope you have a happy, safe, and healthy holiday season. Come on home. Opa!
Hello, my name is Tavia Avila. We are building a new radio program at KSCO. The show is called Walk the Talk, and it's all about people's dreams and goals and what is stopping them from achieving what they want in life. During the hour live broadcast, guests will receive resources in order to make their dreams a reality. We all have a life purpose and can all benefit from resources and support in order to make those dreams a reality. If you are interested in sharing your journey with others and receiving resources or being a resource for my future guests, then please contact me at 831-475-1080 extension 310, or you can email me at tavia@ksco.com. This talk show is not only about helping my guests who come on the air, but also about inspiring others to walk their talk. For more information, contact me at 831-475-1080 extension 310, or email me at tavia@ksco.com. That is TAVIA@ksco.com.
Hi, I'm Alex Darnell. I believe I'm unique compared to other talk show hosts out there. You'll have liberals that'll bore you to death because everything they say is tailored to fit with what either, say it's Obama. If Obama's president, Obama could do no wrong. If it's a Republican, they can do no right. Me, it's like, hey, right and wrong. In whatever party it happens to follow. I don't care if you label me. I don't worry about it because it would stifle my creativity. I'm Alex Darnell, Mondays 2 to 4 on KSCO.
Hopefully y'all are watching us on KSCO Global. Go to YouTube, youtube.com, and look up KSCO Global, and we're streaming live right now. So, Doc Wallach, the question that I kind of asked before we went to break is, there's these medications that are meant for behavioral health issues like depression, anxiety, and things that are meant to help. But oh my gosh, it stresses me out and it baffles my mind. How is suicidal ideation and the increased risk of suicide an acceptable side effect for a medication designed to counteract exactly that?
Well, Justin, that's the ultimate question. And of course, the first thing you have to appreciate is that the only prescription drugs that cure anything are antibiotics. So they'll cure bacterial diseases, everything from syphilis to salmonella to staph infections and strep infections, bacterial pneumonia, bacterial encephalitis. But other than antibiotics, there's not a single prescription drug out there that cures anything. All of them are expressly designed to treat symptoms.
You know, the way that we heard it from pharmacist Ben was that pharmacology is essentially a way to disrupt your system, disrupt your organ system so that one will compensate for another. It's not fixing anything. One of them is actually being suppressed.
Exactly right. And so in this case, when you take an antipsychotic drug or an anti-anxiety drug or anti-depression drug, what happens is it's depressing one piece of your brain's physiology, and it actually opens the doors so that deficiency that causes these problems actually is made worse.
Yeah, I think
it's just like if you're a diabetic and you eat sugar, if you're diabetic and you eat sugar, it's going to make your diabetes worse. And so the same thing is true with these drugs. And so it's absolutely, I mean, they should learn. This has been going on for such a long time. And so they should have learned already that these are not the proper route. And that's why we're working so hard to get the nutrition into the military to prevent this from happening so they won't even go to those drugs. And I'll give you a wonderful example. There was a study done in Texas in the 1970s on two adjacent counties. And these two counties are demographically the same number of Latinos versus Europeans and African Americans and so forth, same demographics for the amount of agriculture plus manufacturing. The only difference was the nutrition content of their drinking water. One county had an extremely low level of a particular nutrient that causes, when you're deficient in this nutrient, it increases your risk of suicide, mass murder, muggings, domestic violence, rape, all this violent stuff.
Criminal behavior.
Yes, exactly.
Violent
and
criminal
then,
behavior.
But specific, violent, very specifically violent criminal behavior. And then the adjacent county had an extremely high level of this nutrient, and they had the lowest rate of these violent crimes in the state of Texas, where the one next door that had the lowest amount had the highest rate of these crimes in Texas. And so I've been treating people with these problems, now for 40 years. And so it's very easy to look at the records or even actually talk to people, and you can figure this out literally in seconds. And you give them the 90 essential nutrients, 16 minerals, 16 vitamins, 12 amino acids, 3 fatty acids. Give them some extra of that nutrient that's missing, and it all goes away in days.
What's that
nutrient? It all goes away in days. Well, I can't tell you. That's
But you're saying it's one key nutrient out of the 90 that actually causes the depression type symptoms.
Yes. That whole array of brain and behavioral problems is caused by a deficiency of a single nutrient. And this was actually made into a prescription drug during the early 1900s until about 1940 when they came out with Prozac, the antidepressant prescription drug. Then they dropped this one because some of these mineral spas would have high levels of that particular nutrient in the water. And so people would go there when they'd have emotional problems. And even Joan of Arc would hear voices and stuff like that. She was a psychotic person. And she would go to this place, and she was healed by drinking the water and sitting in this hot spring water every day for a week and drinking it, and all her psychoses went away. And so this is nothing new. This goes back, hundreds of years that people knew that there was something in the water that would normalize the behavior of people who had these problems. And so it's not like it's unused, and it was used as a prescription item, for 50 years. And then Prozac came out, and doctors liked Prozac because you couldn't get that from drinking spring water. And so they went to Prozac and dropped the other one, and it was taken off the rolls of a prescription item. But we have it. I'll tell you, it's a secret sauce we add to the Healthy Brain and Heart Pack. We call the Healthy Brain and Heart Pack, and it is a secret sauce that goes along with that. For people with these problems, we make sure they don't cold turkey drop off their medications, because that could cause problems. And so we say, hey, every week you need to go see the guy or gal who wrote the prescription for your antipsychotic medications or antidepressant medications or PTSD medications, and they will slowly begin to bring you down off those medications as you improve. But taking this system, it never fails. It's predictable as gravity. They will improve and be able to wean off the drugs.
Let me ask you, Ken, what is the reason that you can't tell us the exact nutrient? Is that an FDA issue?
Well, it's partially FDA because you cannot relate nutrients to specific diseases. Okay, that's the medical system has spent a lot of money lobbying legislators to get them to pass laws to prevent you from relating a disease to, for instance, I can't say we have something to fix diabetes. I can say we have something that will support healthy blood sugar. And so it's kind of a word game that they've put up in front of the natural approach to things. And so I've sued them 7, 8, 9 times in federal court over this, and prevailed all 9 times. And we're preparing some more lawsuits as a result, just so that people can use these nutrients for specific diseases.
Yeah, some of us are not very good at reading between the lines.
And so that's how I've been able to, people say, well, how come you're not in jail, Wallach? You've been, doing all this stuff. And that's because you learn where the free throw line is, just like in basketball, you learn where the free throw line is. You put your toes on the free throw line. But these guys are 7 foot tall, and they kind of lean over 3 feet. They get a little closer. And so you learn how to use words as they do. But staying off the landmines, that's the main thing, is stay away from the landmines. You know where the IEDs are at, and so you just stay away from them, and you stay out of trouble. And we do a lot of great work, and we want to carry this on into the military. It's long overdue, and so that's going to be our next lawsuit. And we're putting everything together on it. We've developed, like 2 pickup trucks load of evidence, so it's not like it's a theory. It's well documented in both animals and people. That one study in Texas is actually written up in Chapter 11 of the book Rare Earths Vin Cures. So if you want to know the nutrients, you can look up Chapter 11 of the book Rare Earths Vin Cures. And that study in Texas is really highlighted and detailed and referenced in that Chapter 11 of the book Rare Earths Vin Cures.
I've got about 5 books of yours here on the desk in front of me, but that is not one of the ones I have with me today, unfortunately. But let me ask you this. Did Gerhard Schrauser, Dr. Gerhard Schrauser, have anything to do with the research that you're talking about?
Absolutely.
Is that guy the man, Dr. Wallach?
He was the man. And but the nutrient that he did his research on, that was not the one, that he's famous for. The one he's famous for, of course, is a trace mineral selenium. And that has other attributes, but it's a different nutrient other than selenium, although he was part of that study, but that's not what he's famous for. He's famous for selenium, and he found out that, of course, a selenium deficiency causes acute liver death, and people would die, and animals would die from sudden liver death, sudden heart death. That's why these young athletes die, from sudden heart death, because they're deficient in that nutrient. And it's one of those sad things that something so easily preventable, and that's why we made a sports drink that has it in there. Gatorade has 2 nutrients, not that nutrient. Powerade has 6 nutrients, not that nutrient. Our Rebound sports drink has 100 nutrients and does contain that nutrient.
The nutrient that stops heart attacks on the playing field.
Exactly.
So you're able to put products together that specifically, they benefit health as a whole, but you can specifically target a part of the body or a system of the body with the right type of formulations in your products?
That's correct. And this is a new science. It's called epigenetics. Epigenetics, it takes the place of the science of genetics. And I'm considered one of the fathers of the science of epigenetics because that one project I did with the National Institutes of Health, I did 20,000 autopsies, and I was the only pathologist on the project. We found out that all these diseases that people die from that are not infectious or from trauma, they're all due to nutritional deficiencies, not pollution, that sort of thing. And so we began to really study what we needed to do to give everybody the basic program, the 90 essential nutrients, as we do in animals because we don't have insurance for animals. And then we came up with the secret sauces for each of 900 different diseases to give them extra of that special nutrient they're missing to get that disease. There's no rule that says you can't have 2, 6, 8, 10, 12, 15, 20 deficiency diseases at the same time. And this is what really gets the doctors. They say, oh, they have an autoimmune disease. I mean, every system is shutting down. Well, that's because they can't absorb these nutrients. You fix their absorption by getting them off of gluten, help increase their absorption efficiency, give them the 90 essential nutrients. And I had one gal, she's a pastor in Detroit. Justin, she was on 13 prescription drugs, so she had 6 diseases. She had diabetes and kidney failure. She had high blood pressure, cardiovascular disease, lung disease, and so forth, liver disease. And she was 200 pounds overweight and only 5'2". And in just 90 days, she was off of all 13 prescription drugs. All her health problems went away, and she got down to 135 pounds without 1 second of exercise.
Wow. I've seen the weight loss effects that your products have on people at the different business conferences that I've gone to with you guys. And there was a huge story going through the company about a 600-pound man who was able to lose 300 pounds in a short period of time without a single day at the gym.
That's correct. Yeah, the guy was actually 440 pounds. And then I did have one that's 620 pounds, got down to 200 pounds, 620 pounds. And his last name is Cheney, not Dick Cheney, but another Cheney. He lives in Vegas and so forth, and he tells everybody the story. When you look at him, you'd never guess he weighed 620 pounds because he's only 5'6". And it took 3 people holding hands to get their arms around him. He was a big boy. But we do this literally thousands of times a month. We're in 55 countries, and so all over the world we've been doing this for 40 years commercially. And my first clinic I owned back in 1978 was a bariatric, a weight loss clinic. I actually bought the clinic before I graduated and was licensed to practice medicine, so I had to hire 2 doctors to run the clinic, and I did my residency in my own clinic.
So, Doc Wallach, one question that would come to mind for me is you've described to us the ways that deficiencies can cause health issues and mental health issues. For instance, I know that vitamin C is water soluble and vitamin A is fat soluble. So you can overdose on vitamin A, but it's almost impossible to overdose on vitamin C. Do you find any concerns about detrimental effects of overabundances of nutrients, or maybe dumping too many in with, or of a specific nutrient using one of these formulations that contains, the 90 different things that you were describing? Or is there ever a problem of too much?
Okay, that's a good question, because just about everybody who's not familiar with our program asks that question. It's a reasonable question, because doctors hammer them. Oh, no, just eat well, you get everything you need, you might overdose by taking minerals. And, of course, the doctor's average lifespan, according to their own survey, is 56, so why listen to them for health and longevity, right? Anyway, that's a reasonable question. And actually, there's a system by which the FDA and the CDC, Center for Disease Control, both of them, get calls every day by the hundreds when people have a symptom either associated with a prescription of a prescription drug or taking a vitamin supplement. And in 1997, I think it was, 2007. In 2007, they took these calls for, let's see here, prescription drugs where people had a problem with them. And the year later, in 2008, they took calls on vitamins and minerals where people were having problems with them. Too much vitamin C, you get diarrhea. Too much niacin, you get itchy, red, fleshy skin kind of stuff. And that one year, 2007, they had over 6,000 complaints for reactions to pharmaceuticals, and they were all deaths.
Jeez.
And in 2008, they had 500 complaints on nutrition, and they were just itchy skin and diarrhea kind of stuff. So you're much safer taking vitamins and minerals than you are taking prescriptions. In fact, let me just throw one more thing in here on prescriptions. In hospitals alone, according to Johns Hopkins, very famous medical school, they came out with this not too long ago, 3 months ago. They said the number 3 cause of death in America is minor mistakes in hospitals by doctors. They're talking about decimal point errors in the drugs. 251,000 Americans are killed each year in hospitals by simple mistakes by doctors. 251,000.
Clerical errors account for a lot of those too, just like mistyping one number in one computer.
Exactly. And so if Iran or Iraq were to send over a intercontinental ballistic missile with a horrible weapon and kill 251,000 people one time, we declare war on them. Here's one trade that does it every year in their workplace, a hospital, and they get a pass.
And they're getting paid for it. Good money, too. So, Doc, what about adverse reactions to prescription drugs? What do those numbers look like? I mean, there must be people we're losing every year to fatality due to prescription overdose, or
look at the opioid crisis we got going on right now.
Well, the opioids is 52,000 to 60,000 every year now.
That's just
and
one
these are all
facet of the problem.
Yeah,
and that's only including the deaths. There are many veterans who are currently alive and on opiates, and their life is over because they sit in a chair and play video games and take their prescription drugs.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we can help them. We can get them on the 90 if they got to want to quit. We can get them on the 90, and we can slowly wean them off their medication. They go back to normal life if they want to, but they've got to participate. They've got to want to. And when people are addicted, they're afraid. And so when you're afraid, you do crazy things to protect yourself. And so, or you view it as protecting yourself. And so this is a problem. But if we can get these young people coming into the military on the 90 cents of nutrients in boot camp, and they get it every day, twice a day, through boot camp, and when they're in the military from then on, they won't be searching for anything. People are searching for something when they get on opioids, other than the prescription opioids. All they have to do to stop these deaths from the opioids is to stop manufacturing them and stop prescribing them. But doctors out there, they want to get people addicted on the opioids, so they keep coming back every month to renew the prescription, and that assures them a certain cash flow.
We're creating addicts.
Are they legally allowed to make money on the sale of prescription drugs if you're a physician?
Oh, absolutely.
It's called incentives.
I mean, if you're familiar at all with what drop shipping is, that is exactly what a doctor does. They buy a drug for $5,000 and then they sell it to a patient for $12,000 and then they pay their fees and pocket the rest.
Interesting. I thought there was laws preventing that. That's a conflict of interest. I mean, it may not be the best thing for the patient, but it's the most profitable for the doctor. And so...
Well, you know, almost every pharmaceutical industry out there has these representatives, and they're all beautiful women because beautiful women sell drugs.
And they do it well, apparently. I read a story about the history of the reefer madness thing that went on in the 1920s, and it kind of correlated the abuse of cocaine, the abuse of opium and opiates. In the 1920s, there was an epidemic of marijuana and cocaine over addiction from physicians. And the government had to ban it because there was literally like 4 or 5 million Americans suffering from cocaine addiction, suffering from opium addiction, and they had been prescribed that addiction by a legally registered doctor.
Yes, in fact, again, most of the addictions to these drugs is from prescriptions. Starts out as prescriptions. And just about every one of these 52,000, 60,000 who die are on prescription or had been for a long period of time on prescription opiates. And fentanyl, which I'm very familiar with. I did some of the early research on that when I was in Africa, catching elephants. This drug is like 50 times more potent than morphine, and so it didn't take much, just a couple of milligrams. Just a couple of milligrams would knock down a 15,000-pound elephant.
Wow.
So a human dosage would be just a few micrograms.
Micrograms.
And so it would be very easy to cause an overdose or cause some kind of negative reaction just by a slight miscalculation of a person's dosage.
That is correct. Or even just get an extra half a drop on the tip of the needle or something when you pull it out of the multi-dose vial. Mm-hmm. And so, these things are not anything to play with. And I used to get it, they'd send it to me, in Africa, 25 pounds at a time. And people always ask me, "Well, did you ever try that stuff?" I said, "You got to be out of your mind." Even though I was bent in that direction, out in the middle of Africa, you overdosed, it was game over. I mean, why would you even think about doing something like that?
Yeah, that's crazy. Dr. Wallach, we got to take a short commercial break. When we come back, I want to kind of go into some of your life accomplishments before the first hour of the interview ends. You've achieved so much. We've got to touch on that definitely for a few minutes. This is the Veterans Take Charge Radio Show. We'll be right back after a short message from our sponsors.
Hi, registered pharmacist Ben Fuchs here. I've been studying healthy bodies for 35 years, and what I've got to tell you may shock and surprise you, but if you listen up, it may change your life. Leaky gut syndrome is a digestive condition where food enters the bloodstream through holes or leaks in a deteriorating intestinal lining. It's a major cause of blood toxicity, inflammatory symptoms, and chronic degenerative disease. It's largely the result of what we're eating, and that's good news. It places the control over our disease processes right in our kitchens and dining rooms. To reverse any degenerative illness, focus first on digestive health. Use supplements and nutrient-dense unprocessed whole foods, and you'll find you need to eat less. Eliminate gluten, grains, and other problematic foods, and support digestive function by chewing carefully. Acidifying the stomach by using apple cider vinegar or betaine HCl with meals can help. So can digestive enzymes taken with your food. Because sugar can accelerate the deterioration of the intestinal lining, go easy on the sweets. Use fiber and protein to combat sugar cravings, and always drink copious amounts of water if you fall off the sugar abstinence wagon. Moving your muscles and bones turns on healing chemistry. Just jumping on a rebounder or mini trampoline for a minute or two can improve detoxification. Don't forget to breathe. Low oxygenation of tissues is an important marker of illness. And lighten up and relax. Under conditions of stress, disease progresses and healing is impaired. Pharmacist Ben here, urging you to go to KSCOhealth.com to order Beyond Tangy Tangerine, the Healthy Start Pack, and other nutritional supplements that I personally use and recommend. You can purchase these premium quality products at wholesale prices online at KSCOhealth.com. That's KSCOhealth.com. I'm the pharmacist that believes that staying healthy and strong is not only about medicine, it's about giving your body the raw materials it needs to do its work. Go to KSCOhealth.com. Make sure you check out the cool videos, too, at KSCOhealth.com. That's KSCOhealth.com.
Welcome back to Veterans Take Charge. We've got Nobel Prize nominee Dr. Joel Wallach on air with us today. He's also an Air Force Reserve Lieutenant Colonel and all-around badass in pretty much everything he does, and that's why we have him on air with us. This guy's got so much knowledge that we need to share. We could probably do 100 hours of broadcasting and not get it all, because
not even talk about the same thing twice.
It's about 60 years of his life work we're discussing, so there's a lot to it. Dr. Wallach, is there any other, like, I had a military question for you. Before we deviate from the military topic completely in the next hour, I wanted to talk about how the heck you bypassed a rank when you were brought into the Air Force.
Oh, well, actually, I started out as a second lieutenant, I told you, and went to first lieutenant, went to captain, went to major in the I guess I went to captain in the Army. And then when I went to the Air Force, it didn't take long. They promoted me to major, and then I was promoted to lieutenant colonel. And that's because when the general wanted something done, he'd come to the officers club and he said, okay, gentlemen, I have to have something done in 12 hours. Here's what needs to be done. Can you do it? And everybody else would turn their eyes. And I always raised my hand and said, sir, I can do it. And so instead of 12 hours, I'd get it done in 3 or 4 kind of thing. And after a couple of years of that, the general asked me, he said, Wallach, I need to know what it is you do. Why can you get things done so quickly and everybody else, don't even want to try? I said, sir, you are the general. If you order me to tell you what I am doing, I will tell you, sir, in every great detail. But I would require an order from you to tell you the answer to your question, sir. And he walked around a little bit, and he came back. He looked me in the eyes. I looked him back in the eyes. He says, "I really don't want to know the answer to that, do I?" I said, "No, sir." And I would take lots of shortcuts. For instance, when most people, they would put a requisition in for a vehicle, it would take 2 days to get a vehicle or a crew. I would just hotwire the vehicles and take them. And
mission first.
Yep, mission first. And so when I put it back, of course, the only problem they had, where in the hell did that 400 miles come from that didn't have documents?
Where's our gas?
Yeah, they document every mile on all the vehicles.
Yeah, oh yeah.
It's interesting that you use that route. I actually, the gentleman who was my mentor and the reason I became an Army Ranger, he used to tell me stories about hot wiring vehicles in the Army during the Vietnam era, and I guess it was kind of common back then.
Yeah, we did what we had to do. And he knew what I was talking about, and so that's why he didn't force me to answer the order.
Keeps himself legally not liable for the situation.
Well, and keep me active because it made him look good.
Exactly, right? He can kind of take credit for the work that got done as long as it was finished.
Exactly.
So, Doc, I wanted to touch on some of your life accomplishments. I mean, you achieve big things in the veterinary field. Can you tell us a little bit about that? And I know some of your research has been renowned. Can you tell us about diseases of exotic animals as well?
Sure. Okay. Well, the big project was a National Institutes of Health project. It was actually a grant that started out at $7 million and it went to $25 million. Now, this is back in the 60s when that was a lot of money. It'd be the equivalent of $1 billion today. And I had written as a graduate student in pathology at the University of Missouri. I ran when it was during December of 1961. All the professors were off for the holidays, and the people who were graduate students were in charge of the services. Well, I was in charge of the pathology service, and dumped into my lap was the first mass die-off in America from pollution. And so I identified it, did the detective, did all the chemistry, got it done, prepared it for publication, and took it to the professors, and I said, okay, am I going to be a co-author here? Because you guys as professors said, no, you're going to be the author. I mean, we weren't even here when you did it, so we're proud of you. Go ahead and publish it. So I got it published in veterinary journals and chemistry journals, and I handed it out to a whole bunch of people because I was so proud of that. I'm 21 years old and published my first scientific article, a very, very dramatic article, and gave one of them one copy to Marlon Perkins from the old Mutual Omaha Wild Kingdom show. He's one of the first TV biologists. And followed by the crocodile hunter, which most guys your age know the crocodile hunter, but Marlon Perkins was first. And so I had worked for him in high school and in the first couple of years of university at the zoo. And I gave him a copy of that just out of respect to him. Well, to make a long story short, he had helped me get to Africa when I was halfway through my PhD for pathology. And I went there to do the White Rhino Conservation Projects. That's when I was working with fentanyl and all these other opioid drugs to knock down elephants and rhino to catch them and send them back to the States. And he sent me a letter when I was there. He said, look, I just got this grant from the National Institutes of Health to study pollution as a cause of death from natural causes. And since you wrote the first paper on deaths from natural causes, we want you to come be the pathologist in the project. What we're going to do is we're going to do autopsies of animals that die of natural causes in the big zoos in the big cities around the United States, and people who die within a 10-mile radius. And I was doing comparative pathology, so I was doing autopsies of people as well as animals, and so they picked me for that project. We did 20,000 autopsies over a 10-year period, 20,000 autopsies, 10 million chemistries, 10 million special stains. And my thesis started out 5,000 pages, 20,000 autopsies, all those chemistries. And we rendered it down to 1,200 pages and got it published as the Diseases of Exotic Animals. And it's in the Smithsonian Institute as a national treasure because the bottom line finding was that all birth defects, except those caused by chemistry or chemicals, all birth defects are caused by nutritional deficiency of the embryo. And when you have a vertebrate, whether you're a turtle or a fish or a snake or a crocodile or a human being, a giraffe or an elephant or a pig or a dog or a rabbit, doesn't matter, flamingo, if you're a vertebrate and you're deficient in a certain nutrient, all vertebrates will get the same disease. So I'm finding type 2 diabetes in crocodiles, I'm finding sickle cell anemia, which is supposed to be a genetic disease in African Americans and Africans in general, in deer and antelope and hummingbirds and things like that. I'm getting all this confirmed, and I also found the first non-human case of cystic fibrosis, supposed to be a genetic disease in humans, turns out to be a simple nutritional deficiency disease, that any vertebrate gets that nutritional deficiency gets cystic fibrosis. And so these are the sort of big things that really drove my career to make me understand that we could eliminate just about every disease you can name other than trauma and infectious diseases with nutrition. Every birth defect you can name, and 10 times that many you can't, with the exception of maybe 0.5%, which are due to chemicals and infections like measles during pregnancy. But 99.5% are due to nutritional deficiency of the embryo. Most women do not take prenatal vitamins until they've missed 2 or 3 cycles, and then they say, oh gosh, I might be pregnant. Well, the embryo is already damaged at that point. But if everybody were taking all 90 essential nutrients before they're conceived, all through the pregnancy they're developed in, from the moment they're born, we can eliminate all birth defects just like we've done in animals. We can eliminate diabetes, cardiovascular disease, arthritis, Alzheimer's disease, kidney failure, back problems, high blood pressure, all these things that people, PTSD, all this stuff that people have are thought to be genetic or autoimmune or whatever, or pollution, are really just nutritional deficiencies, and it's documented extremely well in that book.
Awesome, Doc. We are going to go to our top of the hour break. Hold on for us. We'll be right back with you. This is the Veterans Take Charge Radio Show. We're going to take a short commercial break here at the top of the hour, and we'll be right back.
KSCO.
CBS News, I'm Pam Coulter. 3 newspapers in Alabama have endorsed Democratic Senate candidate Doug Jones as Republican Roy Moore continues to grapple with the sexual misconduct scandal. CBS's Laura Podesta says President Trump's had little to say about the controversy.
White House aide Mark Short said President Trump was concerned about several aspects of the story.
He has concerns about the accusations, but he's also concerned that these accusations are 38 years old. Roy Moore has been in public service for decades, and the accusations did not arise until a month before elections.
Moore has denied all allegations, and his family has come out to defend the former judge.
Even after all the attacks against me, against my family, against the foundation, and now against my husband, he will not step down.
An upstate New York woman who needed help finding work says a state employee did help her, but then continually sexually harassed and assaulted her. 51-year-old Lisa Marie Cater says the governor's office knew about William Sam Hoyt's actions and did nothing to stop it. Her attorney, Paul Legere.
He used that position of power to unlawfully and egregiously manipulate my client and sexually harass her.
With the legislative clock running down, Trump administration officials are lobbying for a tax cut bill.
I'm Tom Foti. Leading the administration's Sunday broadcast charge for tax overhaul were the Treasury Secretary and the White House Budget Director. Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin on Fox News Sunday.
This is about a very significant middle-income tax cut. That's what this is all about.
Not about giving the ultra-rich a tax cut, he insists. Critics and some analysts differ. As for the Senate move to include a key health care issue in its version, Budget Director Nick Mulvaney.
If a good tax bill can pass with that Obamacare mandate repeal as part of it, great. If it needs to come out in order for that good tax bill to pass, we can live with that as well.
He was on Face the Nation. Tom Foti, CBS News, Washington.
President Trump went on a Twitter attack after the father of one of the UCLA basketball players accused of shoplifting in China downplayed Mr. Trump's role in their release. CBS's Elaine Quijano has more.
When ESPN asked LeVar Ball Friday about the president's role in his son's release, Ball said, "Who?" and asked, "What was he over there for? Don't tell me nothing. Everybody wants to make it seem like he helped me out." A remark that clearly bothered the president. He took time out of his Sunday to respond, tweeting, "LeVar Ball, the father of LiAngelo, is unaccepting of what I did for his son," adding, "I should have left them in jail." LiAngelo Ball and his 2 teammates did thank President Trump for his help during a news conference after their return home.
The president also tweeted today that his decision on the importation of African elephant trophies will be announced next week. This is CBS News.
President Trump is enduring the most turbulent presidency in recent history, creating a period of economic uncertainty, reminding investors of 2008, when some lost as much as 50% of their retirement accounts. Protect your family's financial future with a gold IRA from Augusta Precious Metals. A gold IRA is an ultimate hedge against economic uncertainty because precious metals are a true wealth asset that hold their value. Call Augusta today at 855-858-5807 and receive your free gold IRA kit. That's 855-858-5807.
At our home, winter nights are complicated. Either I end up freezing.
Or I'm sweating.
Hi, I'm Missy Tannen.
And I'm Scott Tannen, founders of Boll & Branch, the world's most comfortable sheets.
And now, we've created the world's first luxury flannel bedding, available for a limited time at bollandbranch.com. Try them risk-free for 30 nights.
Go to bollandbranch.com today for $50 off your first set, plus free shipping with promo code SLEEP. Spelled B-O-L-L and branch.com. Promo code SLEEP.
Good evening. You're listening to AM 1080 KSCO Santa Cruz, AM 1340 KONY La Selva Beach. We're also on your FM dial here in Santa Cruz at 104.1, over in San Jose at 107.9, and in Salinas and Watsonville at 95.7 FM. You can also check us out online worldwide at KSCO.com, and of course the archive over at ZBSradio.com. We're also streaming live on YouTube, a subsidy of Google, over at the KSCO Global channel. Check that out and please subscribe. Again, that's youtube.com/C/KSCO Global. Find the channel, find the live feed. Quick look at the traffic. 101 northbound still heavy to Gilroy. Got a couple of accidents listed there on the map. About 2 miles apart from each other. The first one at Sargent, the next one up there just before the Highway 25 connector. 17, a bit heavy northbound to Los Gatos. Looks like no accident there, just a lot of cars. 1 north to Santa Cruz clear, south clear, all the way to Monterey. Looks like a bit of traffic there in the Moss Landing area. Northbound to the bridge, backed up for about a half mile. California Highway Patrol reporting a collision at 423 on the 12,000 block of Center Avenue near Hollister Gilroy. Looks like vehicle not drivable after plowing into a fence. Terrific. 5:06, time for Hour 2 of the Veterans Take Charge radio show right here on your favorite station, AM 1080 KSCO.
It's gonna be whatever.
Has he done anything like that? Okay.
Welcome back to the Veterans Take Charge radio show. Doc Wallach, are you still with us?
I'm here.
All right. We want to spend the next 30 minutes or so talking trauma with you, and I'm going to go ahead and let my co-host, the U.S. Army's Western Region Best Medic 2008, take the reins on this part of the interview. He has dealt with mass casualties in Iraq, so he knows a bit about trauma, and we want to get your take on how nutrients can benefit people who have got bone damage, tissue damage, joint damage, ligament damage, you name it. Dave, take it away, my man.
Hey, rock and roll. How's it going, Doc?
Very fine. Thank you, sir.
Outstanding. Outstanding. Well, we do want to talk about trauma, and I know that you've worked with the Navy SEALs and the Special Forces community.
That's correct.
Pretty closely, and I want to talk about that. But first, I've got a couple of questions, and I kind of want to lay out a situation and pick your brain about it a little bit.
Okay.
You know, if you're comparing Joe Schmo the civilian and Joe Schmo the deployed soldier, there's some pretty significant differences physiologically in my mind, and one of which is the chronic adrenal dump that happens whenever there's stimulation, fight, flight, or freeze. And quite honestly, I don't like the freeze part, but whatever. So when it comes to the body's integrity, the cellular integrity of tissues and the systems, the organ systems and whatnot, is there any kind of significant difference from Joe Schmo the civilian who sits 9 to 5 behind a desk and Joe Schmo the savage badass who's out always on deployment, who has chronically got the steroid dump? Is there any kind of integritous differences between the tissues?
Well, you're exactly right, and that's a great question, and of course there is. And stress, we actually have a system. The adrenal cortex deals with this, and the steroid hormones. And the steroid hormones, very interesting class of hormones, which include testosterone, estrogen, progesterone, and adrenal hormones, adrenal cortical hormones. And they're called steroid hormones, and they're 95% by weight cholesterol. They're 95% by weight cholesterol.
Okay.
And one of the things that we can do to reduce the stress load of people who are deployed in a war zone, or even just in a hectic, if they're a flight control, air controller, they're under a lot of stress. Things like that, even in civilian situations. So they need to be eating about 10, 12, 15 eggs a day to get enough cholesterol so that their adrenal glands do not get exhausted, because you can have the best genes in the world, but if you don't have the raw materials for your adrenal cortex to make the steroid hormones, guess what? You are going to respond to stress in a whole different way than if you're getting enough raw materials to make enough adrenal hormones.
That makes perfect sense.
And so,
you are what you eat.
Yeah, you are what you eat, and you are what you absorb. You are what you absorb. And so it's imperative for people to take a minimum. If you're in a high-stress situation, now, for instance, for breakfast, I'll have 4, 5, 6 eggs with a steak and a baked potato. That's my breakfast. I don't eat Cheerios and Wheaties and that kind of stuff. Just too much carbs and sugars. No real nutrition. Same thing with dinner. When I'm done after my talks at night, 10 o'clock at night, we go out and have a steak and some eggs, big salad and a glass of wine, eat high-fat cheeses and things like that. So I'm giving my adrenal glands and my testicles everything they need to make the hormones.
How are your bowel movements with all that?
Actually, I have 2 nice, comfortable bowel movements each day, and been doing that for 80 years.
There we go. That's medic talk. That's good stuff.
So speaking about that high-protein diet, I know that my dad gets some ringing in his ears, and it's getting worse and worse as he gets older, but he told me that just on his own he found out if he doesn't eat sugar, after 2 days the ringing just goes away and does not come back. So he's on a very similar diet, steak twice a day, and that's pretty much all he eats.
Yeah, but he should be taking also the 90, because when you have ringing in the ears, oftentimes that's a signal you're getting osteoporosis of the skull, and the auditory branch of the 8th cranial nerve is being squeezed. You get that tone, that tinnitus.
I got that tone right now.
Oh, no, we all do.
Yeah, you can be 12 years old. You can be 12 years old and get it. It's actually osteoporosis of the skull. And so it's totally preventable, totally very quickly reversible with a nutritional supplement that supports maintenance, repair, musculoskeletal stuff in this case. And as those tunnels open up, take the pressure off the nerves, the tinnitus, ringing in the ears goes away.
Interesting.
So now when it comes to the adrenal dump and the integrity of all our systems, it sounds like a lot of it comes to preparatory, I guess, front loading of nutrition so that we have good quality of the adrenal dump.
That's correct.
When it comes to the actual mechanism of injury and repair, regeneration, recovery, is there any kind of notable difference between somebody who has the chronic stress dump as opposed to somebody who does not? Is there like a difference in rehabilitation time?
Well, the difference in rehab comes to, are they deficient? If they're deficient, you can have the best genes in the world, and they can't do their work to repair. The genes, DNA, RNA, and telomeres can't repair broken, damaged, crushed tissues if they don't have the raw materials, which are the 90 essential nutrients. And so it really doesn't matter if you're somebody in a war zone or you're somebody in traffic in LA on a Friday night,
Same thing.
Headed to Mexico, same principle. You're going to be in trouble. They can do the perfect job of surgery. They can cast it perfectly, and you're going to have complications. You're going to have delays in healing, and you might have other side effect issues. You might not survive putting a pin in your leg just because you don't have the ability to survive anesthesia because you don't have enough nutrition.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and then of course, we do have products that actually stimulate stem cells to go to work. And this, I like to use this on people who are Navy SEALs, Special Forces guys that have impact injuries. I deal a lot in impact injuries from these sort of individuals. And, their parachutes open late and that kind of thing.
Ouch.
And, ouch, yes, or they get crushed in between two vehicles or get run over by a tank kind of thing. So those are the kind of guys I deal with. I see a lot of football players, athletes of all kinds, basketball players, boxers, wrestlers, weightlifters. And so people who are really working hard to fine-tune their body's physiology and musculoskeletal systems, and also their brains. They've got to be in tune, whether you're a boxer or you're a fighter on the field. And so we've come up with systems to give them everything they need for everything to operate above 95%, regardless of the situation.
See, this right here opens up so many different avenues of approach and trains of thought that I had already had been thinking about in preparation for this. So this is actually kind of perfect. When it comes to wound rehabilitation and recovery,
yes.
We got the difference between repair and regeneration. And repair essentially leads to fibrous scarring tissue. And in my mind, that tissue has lost its functionality because it's fibrous scarring. Whereas regeneration, in my mind, there's the possibility that the tissue that's being regenerated can recover its functionality. Is there any way, what's the best way for after an injury, if I get shot, cut, lacerated, whatever the case is, is there any way that I can improve the regeneration and minimize the repair?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And of course, again, this is where the stem cells come in. And again, through reviewing all the research on stem cells, the medical system kind of goes at it backwards. They take fat out of your body and put acids in there and break down the connective tissue and centrifuge it and get the stem cells out of your fat and then inject those stem cells back into you. But they forget that those stem cells require the 90 essential nutrients to do their job. So you may get one hit out of it, and you see a little bit of, in the beginning, you'll see a little bit of benefit, but then it breaks down very rapidly after that because there's no nutrition going for replication of those stem cells. And so we came up with a system by which they get their 90, the 16 minerals, 16 vitamins, 12 omega-3 fatty acids, the basic stuff that all our cells need to function properly in their physiology to work, including repair and maintenance. And then you throw in the stem cell nutrition. We have a product that's stem cell nutrition. It's called Immortalium. It's called Immortalium. And I take 3 of those twice a day just for prevention because I fly so much and are on the highways so much. And so just in hoping nothing bad ever happens, but if it does, if I survive the crash or the event, then I will heal faster and more completely and more functionally able than somebody who's not getting those Immortalium stem cells food.
Mm-hmm. Is the Immortalium product the one that has the telomeres in it?
Well, I can't answer that question.
Okay. FDA issue.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, I read an article somewhere that telomeres were really good for anti-aging capabilities, but
I thought telomeres.
Oh yeah, you want to maintain you want to maintain your telomeres. These are the end caps on your chromosomes, and every time the chromosomes in a cell divides into 2. Your chromosomes have to divide, and you lose a little bit of that telomeres. And by the time you're 35 or 40, your telomeres are just about at their end.
Oh, crap.
And yeah, gold. So pay attention here, gentlemen. Basically, what you want to do is be taking the 90, stay away from the bad stuff, so that when you're 120, your telomeres are still that of a 22-year-old guy.
Yeah.
And so we have the systems to do that. Of course, now they have all these systems out there. You can go into a drugstore and get the kit and send your saliva in. They can tell you how long your telomeres are, or, your telomere age, your tele-age, they call it. And they advertise it on TV a little bit. And so, once a quarter or once a year, get your telomere ages. And you guys are 35. I heard you say you're like in your 30s.
Yeah.
Your telomeres should be like you're 16. They should be right there, 100%.
I like it.
Oh, yeah. So now you touched on something, stem cells. This is something that has fascinated me tremendously. And we've talked to a bunch of different people about different ways of rehabilitating and repairing traumatic brain injury. You know, there has been the idea and the concept that once injury has occurred within the brain, the neurons will not ever repair themselves. And as it turns out,
that's not true.
Exactly. And now, so in my mind, if we start overlaying a whole bunch of different layers of rehabilitation and therapy, specific things like hyperbaric oxygen therapy, 3 times atmospheric pressure of 100%
Very familiar
oxygen.
with it.
And on top of that, stem cells in an area of, again, traumatic injury. Like, let's say, I got a chunk of leg missing from a blast injury. If I have stem cell therapy on top of hyperbaric oxygen therapy, and now introduce the 90 essential vitamins, minerals, and nutrients, like, what will that lead to? Better tissue than originally that was damaged?
Absolutely. You're going to be way ahead of the curve. And, of course, I deal with people who've been working with me on this project for 25, 30 years, and they're in their 70s and 80s, and they look like they're 30 and 40. Most people say they're shocked when they ask my age. I have to show my ID 3 times going through TSA in the airports because I don't take my shoes off. And they say, "You got to take your shoes off, sir." And I said, "No, I don't." And I said, I'm just short of 80. He said, "No way. Let me see your ID." I showed it to them over there. "Let me see your ID." So I showed it. Oh, my gosh. And then he calls somebody over from the clear agents. They look at it. They're all scratching their heads and looking at me. And so that's why I carry a backpack with, I have 60 pounds bottles of vitamins and minerals in there to keep replenishing my daily supply. And so every month I have, I've been doing this twice a day for 75 years.
And when was the last time you had to go to a doctor's appointment?
When I was born. The only time I've been to a doctor was when I was in the military. You're forced to stand in line and get your vaccinations, all that kind of stuff. But other than that, for an illness, an injury, zero, never.
That's awesome.
And you were a high school and college football player and wrestler, is that correct?
Football player, wrestler, and track. I did pole vaulting. I wrestled 120 pounds, weighed 110.
Oh, snap.
I played middle linebacker at 110 pounds. I played middle linebacker and lettered in football and wrestling. And
savage.
No injuries.
No injuries, no, sir.
Once again,
but I did hurt a few of those big boys.
Heck yeah.
There you go. That's always a good feeling when you get one of them.
So once again, getting back into trauma and trauma rehabilitation, I've had this idea that I kind of want to develop a field bandage that would be better than all of the new technologies that are out there right now. We have so much about hemorrhage control and wound management and whatnot. But I've had this idea that if I could develop a patch, a big trauma dressing that immediately upon contact starts the rehabilitation process. Like in my mind, some of the things that are really important for wound healing on the long term are like vitamins A and C and zinc, carbohydrates, and protein. But from your experience, what do you think would be a good recipe for that new trauma bandage I got going on?
Well, I think you're right on track, but instead of cherry picking half a dozen nutrients, I would go with all 90. And you can put a pretty good. You can get it. Well, you have to appreciate that there's 248 nutrients in BTT 2.0. It includes all 90 essential ones. These other ones, many of them will be declared in the next 10 years essential. So we're putting them out there in advance. That's one of the reasons why we're way ahead of everybody else when it comes. Most multiples in the market will have anywhere from 18 to 26 nutrients in it. Ours has 248.
Oh, wow.
And so, and these, the same technology as freeze-dried instant coffee. It took us 5 years to develop that. And you can apply that to a wound, and guess what? You are injecting life into traumatized cells. You are injecting life into these traumatized cells. And then we have oxygen supplements which are drinkable, non-explosive, and they're drinkable. Yeah, oxygen supplements that are drinkable. And you can actually take somebody who's got their blood oxygen level in the 70s, just within a half hour or so after drinking this stuff, your blood oxygen is up to 97, 98.
Whoa.
And that's life-saving right there for the brain.
Yeah, is that through the direct transfusion of oxygen, like in the intestinal system?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
That's pretty cool.
Right
I didn't even know that was possible.
Mm-hmm.
Is it possible?
Well, it's in a special state. It's in a special state. It's not like, we're putting oxygen in water. It's not that simple. Right. Again, it's a technology we developed, and we're very proud of it.
I mean, technically, oxygen's already in water. But.
What kind of absorbent?
Yes, H2O. Yeah.
What kind of absorbent capacity does the skin actually possess, Doc? I mean, the majority of all nutrients are absorbed through the small intestine, right? But what can the skin actually absorb?
Oh, absolutely. The skin can absorb water-soluble things, fat-soluble things, and so you really have to watch what you put on your skin. But you can solve a lot of problems by applying nutrients. For instance, we have people who have relatives in the hospitals, and they say, well, the doctor said they can't have any vitamins and minerals because it might interfere with the drugs. Well, it's certainly not going to interfere with the drugs, make them heal faster. So here's what I would do if I have a relative in the hospital. What I do is I just take our plain plant minerals, which is just what we call the plant-derived minerals, and soak a washcloth with it, put in a little Ziploc bag, take it there, and, say, I'm going to just give them a little rub down with a wet rag. Any problem with that? And doctors, no, go for it. And so then they're rubbing all these 78 minerals on them, and they're absorbing every one of those minerals through their skin, and they're recovering 10 times faster than people not getting these nutrients. I'll tell you, not through the skin, but through a G-tube. I'll tell you a great story. This guy was unconscious for 8 years. I can tell the guy's name because it's a newspaper story. Ray McGregor from Charlotte, North Carolina. He was unconscious for 8 years in the terminal decline of what was diagnosed as Alzheimer's disease by the university, medical school, by some of the big top clinics, because everybody was trying to help this guy. And he was unconscious, and they said, okay, we're going to pull the plug on him here in a couple of weeks. And his sister said, well, let me contact Wallach. And I said, give him the 9 essential nutrients for his G2, give him 4 quarter doses a day. And on the 5th day, she calls me. Her voice is cracking and crying. And I said, oh, gosh, Ray's died, to myself. And I said, was everything okay? She said, well, I went in to start Ray on his 4th day on the program, and the room is cleaned up. His clothes and baggage is gone. His bed is cleaned and made. So I went to the front desk and asked where my brother Ray was. And the woman at the front desk says, Ray? She says, yeah, my brother Ray McGregor. She says, oh, that Ray. He got up this morning, shaved, went back to work at the bank. He didn't realize he was unconscious for 8 years. He thought he was just waking up from a night's sleep. True story.
That's something else.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
You've got a ton of stories like that too, and that's what people don't understand is that this stuff works.
Yes.
Oh wow.
Oh, I have some great stories, but that one kind of fits this bill. You take somebody who got brain trauma from concussion, explosions and that kind of thing, or falls, or even a bullet wound to the head. The survival rate will be much, much higher, and the return of cognizance and so forth, and the memory and will be much higher if they're given these products. And it's just amazing the things that the brain can do. I take people who've been broke their neck, kind of like the Superman injury, and they've been immobile for 3 years. They were told they wouldn't live 8 years. To 6 months on a program, they're walking, and they win the national trap shooting contest with a 12 gauge after just 3 months on our program, and they had been paralyzed from the neck down for 3 years.
Wow.
We've got to go to another break. When we come back, can you tell the Buck Steffens story? Do you recall that?
Oh yeah.
Okay, he's a Vietnam vet, so I believe he's a Vietnam vet. So I want you to tell that story when we come back. This is Veterans Take Charge Radio Show. Stand by. We'll be right back after a message from our sponsors.
Want to help fight hunger this holiday season? It's as easy as going to the grocery store. Safeway Stores Feed the Need campaign is going on now through December 27th.
So shop at any Santa Cruz County Safeway, make a $10 donation at the register, and Safeway will donate an entire bag of food to Second Harvest Food Bank, Santa Cruz County.
Each $10 provides 40 healthy meals to people in need right here in our community.
So, become a hunger hero and fight hunger with us. Visit thefoodbank.org.
Hi, I'm Rebecca Costa, host of the Costa Report. If you're a regular listener of my program, then you know I'm deeply concerned at how fast our world is changing and how quickly we have to adapt. To help us manage that fast pace of change, I've spelled out 12 simple principles in my new book titled On the Verge. That's On the Verge, available at Amazon and fine bookstores everywhere. By learning how organisms in nature weather drastic change, you can also be prepared for whatever comes next. Whether you're an executive, a small business owner, or retired, I want you to get a copy of On the Verge and learn the secrets of predaptation. Because when you do, you're guaranteed to get the jump on what lies ahead. Be prepared for whatever comes next. That's On the Verge, available at Amazon and fine bookstores everywhere. Get your copy today. That's On the Verge.
Welcome back to Veterans Take Charge. We are here with Lieutenant Colonel Joel Wallach, Air Force Reserve. Doc Wallach, I heard a story about a veteran who is a sales agent in your company, Longevity, and I'm not sure if I got the exact story, so I want to get it from you. Buck had been threatened with double amputation. Is the story that I heard?
Gangrene both feet, and that's because he had brittle diabetes for many years. He was about 40 pounds overweight and had terrible type 2 diabetes. And they were going to amputate both his feet in 2 weeks when I met him. And I said, well, sir, if you'll, delay your surgery for 90 days, I think we can save your feet. He says, well, I've got second and third opinions. They said that they're unsavable. I said, well, okay, well, it's your choice. But if you want to save your feet, and we will probably be able to support healthy blood sugar so you won't be diagnosed with diabetes anymore, your choice. He said, okay, let's go for it. And to make a long story short, in 60 days, all the gangrene was gone from his feet. His diabetes was gone, normal blood sugar, all his A1C, everything was perfectly normal, and he'd lost 40 pounds. And we were at a national meeting, and all his friends knew he was supposed to have his feet amputated. They're looking at him. Do you have artificial limbs? He said, no, watch. And he jumps off the stage and runs around the room 2 or 3 times. Had 300 people in it, and yelling and whooping it up. And showing that his feet were pretty good shape because we saved his feet and got rid of his diabetes just by giving him the 90 essential nutrients.
That's awesome. Speaking about those 90 essential nutrients, we just got a message through one of our battle buddies, another Air Force veteran, and he was wondering about adverse effects with the products, and it's kind of along the same lines of what Roop had asked a few minutes ago about. Is there any contraindications or any risk of overabundance or overdosing?
There's no risk of overdosing or overabundance. On occasion, when people have a real serious gluten problem, they have advanced contact enteritis. Enteritis is a word for inflammation in the intestines, and your intestines look like you've been eating poison ivy for salads. It's really ugly. You can't absorb very well. Yeah. What happens is when they take the liquid nutrients orally, they come out of the other end. You can't absorb very efficiently, so they don't absorb them. They come out the other end. They say, oh, I took your stuff and got diarrhea. Well, right away, they're not absorbing. And so you say, okay, you got to get off of gluten, no wheat, brown, and oats, and let's cut your dose down to a quarter, and it'll go slower, and you'll be able to absorb. Even if you only absorb 2%, you're getting more than you were getting before you're supplementing. And our goal here is to speed up your healing. So if you can absorb that 2%, by next week you're absorbing 10%, by the next week you're absorbing 20%, and so forth. And usually within 90 days you're absorbing 95 to 100%. But those are the only complaints we get, and it's very, very rare. But when somebody, we can actually do a hair analysis on them, and if all their nutrients are below a certain line, all of them are below a certain line, it just shows they're not absorbing. Because usually you'll see a variation in the absorption of different nutrients. But if they're all below the bottom baseline, that means you're not absorbing anything. That means you got the contact enteritis, you got a terrible gluten problem. You've got to get off of gluten.
How do we do that test?
Well, it's a hair analysis. You go to again that book, Rare Earths and Cures, Chapter 11. It tells you how to collect the hair, where to send it, how to send it, and within 2 weeks you'll get a computer printout, and that Chapter 11 teaches you how to read that printout properly.
Nice.
Okay, that chapter actually teaches you how to read the printout. And so you don't need to go to a doctor or anything like that. Just read that chapter, collect it, and you can diagnose yourself with diabetes, high blood pressure, all that kind of stuff. You don't need to go to a doctor and get things on your permanent records, pre-existing conditions. If you do it all yourself, go to the pharmacy without a prescription, get the test strips. The book Let's Play Doctor teaches you how to diagnose as many as 900 different diseases yourself. And,
I've actually got that book. I'm holding it up on KSCO Global on YouTube for anybody who wants to get a peek of the cover.
There you go. And, of course, it's amazing. When you think you have diabetes, you just run to the pharmacy. You get a test strip, like somebody who's monitoring their diabetes, and you test your own blood. Gosh, I've got 240 blood sugar. I've got diabetes. It's not on your record, but you know it. So you get what we call the healthy blood sugar pack, and a week later you run it again. Now instead of 240, it's 180. Another week it's 110. Another week it's 92. Another week it's 76. And now you don't have type 2 diabetes anymore. It only took 4 weeks for your body to repair itself, given the right raw materials. Isn't that amazing?
Body to repair itself, given the raw materials. That's important for everybody to know.
Doc, the first day that I got my very first order of your products, I've got to say I felt fantastic. My energy literally blew through the roof. I stopped sleeping virtually. I lost a couple pounds, even though I'm lean. My body absorbed whatever excess, about 4 pounds of fat that I had on my abdomen. And I don't want to go another day without a handful of the products that you prescribed to me. I mean, they work so well. I feel so good on them. I literally do not want to go a day without the Pollen Burst, the BTT, and the other, the Osteo and the EFAs, which are the Healthy Body Start Pack.
Yes, exactly. And it's kind of interesting, Justin. The thing that happens here is if you take these nutrients, you're going to stop sleeping 8 hours. You'll only sleep 4 to 5 hours. And people said, your stuff causes insomnia. I used to sleep 10 hours. Now I get up after 4 hours. I said, okay, what's the biggest complaint of a busy person? They don't have enough time. So if you're as energetic at 4 hours as you were with 10 hours, or even more energetic, I've given you 4, 5, 6 hours of extra work time. Why would you complain?
Exactly. Sleep is relatively non-productive. Aside from getting rest.
Doc, does your body to heal itself.
Does our body actually need to go through the process of rest, or is that just a brain thing?
No, we do need to rest. That allows us to repair from the previous day's activity, because there's this wear and tear stuff going on. It allows your body to just pay attention and devote itself to repairing. But when you're taking the 90 essential nutrients, you'll repair in 4 hours instead of 10. And so you get an extra 4, 5, 6 hours of wake time, which allows you to get on the computer, walk the dog, vacuum the house, do the pool, all the kind of stuff you're going to do, and you're going to have time left over, and you're going to say, how did you get everything done? Sir, if you order me to tell you, I will tell you.
Can you a lot of vets suffer from insomnia. Can you tell us what the cause of that is? And then I guess you can't technically, because of the FDA, tell us the cure that you found, but could you give us guidance on insomnia?
Yeah, well, insomnia, again, is caused by a physiological disruption. There's pieces missing. Hormones are involved with sleep. And people who eat 8 to 10 eggs a day will never have a sleep problem. Okay? But we also have herbs for people who they're really sleep deprived. And so we have these herbs which are legendary for helping people get sleepy. You take 3 of those. They're called sleepies. Yeah, you take 3 of those a half hour before bedtime, and you'll sleep very well. But when you take your 90 essential nutrients, you're going to sleep very well. Eat your 8 to 10 eggs a day. Give your adrenal glands, your ovaries, your testicles, all the cholesterol they need to make the hormones, and you will sleep. Even sleep apnea, it has nothing to do. It's actually a normal behavior. Sleep apnea is a normal behavior. That's a fraud. You take our stuff. You can shove the CPAP machine up the doctor's rump.
Ew.
Okay. Hey, so getting back to the military stuff, we know that you've had some interface with the Navy SEALs and the Spec Ops community.
Yes.
Can you shed some light on that? What that experience was like, and what you have done and provided for them?
Well, again, one of my patients is an admiral who's stationed in Hong Kong, and he sends me these guys. And of course, they want to keep their skills, and they don't want to retire them for health reasons, that sort of thing. And so I've dealt with a lot of Navy SEALs, a lot of Special Forces guys, a lot of intel people, and again, it's a matter of getting them off the bad stuff. It's very easy to sink into the bad food habits, fried foods, processed meats, deli slices, sandwich meats, those kind of things.
Right.
Everybody's sin, right? Then the oils, olive oil, coconut oil, margarines, many substances, cooking oils. And then there's gluten, wheat, barley, rye, and oats, and that occurs in beer and scotch and bourbon and rye whiskey and pizza crust, and these things are everywhere. And so you have to, if you're into beer, you got to drink rice beer, gluten-free beer. If you're into
I declare
alcohol,
shenanigans.
Yes. I drink gluten-free beer.
Well, actually, that's a really interesting thing you just said about incorporating rice beer. Can you tell us something about like nutritional differences in different cultures? For instance, in Okinawa, they have a culture where they mostly eat rice and fish and drink rice wine, as you were saying, and they have a significant increase in lifespan just based on their health and diet and whatever else is going on in Okinawa. Do you have any experiences with those differences that are
absolutely
geographic or maybe in different populations?
I lived for 2 weeks in Okinawa in a little valley that's the longest of, I think they're the third longest of peoples on Earth.
Wow.
And they live in a certain way. They're very primitive. They don't use electricity. They're still putting wood ashes in the gardens. It turns out the wood ashes are minerals, not really ashes. When you burn the wood, the minerals that are in the tree fall out as powder. We call them ashes, but they're really just minerals. They put them in their gardens, and they eat the peas and the sweet potatoes, that kind of thing. They're getting minerals that way. And that extends their telomeres life, which extends their life. It's part of the 90 essential nutrients. They happen to live in a place which is a valley with mountains all around and constant erosion over the years. The minerals up high in the mountains comes down into those valleys. So they're getting these minerals, and that's why they live so long. And the one culture in the United States that lives longer than any other culture in the United States are the Seventh-day Adventists, because they take vitamins and minerals. And they're actually the fifth longest lived peoples on Earth now. 15 years ago, they were like number 12, and they've moved up to number 5 because as cultures come into the first world and they start using electricity and give up wood for fuel, they're giving up their source of minerals. They don't know that. They're giving up their source of minerals, and unless they supplement, they slip down from 3rd to 12th, from 2nd to 10th, and that sort of thing. And but Okinawa, yeah, I love them. They're big on sweet potatoes and rice and fish, and they do drink beer, but it's rice beer. So they don't get access to gluten.
You said that you've done a ton of autopsies on people, so you've seen the small intestine of someone who's suffering from a gluten allergy.
Oh, absolutely.
What does that look like? Just so people understand, this gluten thing is not a trend or a fad. It's a real medical fact.
That's right. Well, when you look at it with the naked eye, and you cut open their intestines, their small intestines, it looks like they've been eating poison ivy for salad. It's really ugly, bloody and swollen, and just you can see why their absorption efficiency is very low. Chronically, if it's been years and years and years, all you see is their lining of their intestines, instead of looking like velvet because of those little villi, it looks like a garden hose fiber. Okay, and so there's no way you can absorb through that. And I actually have in my presentation that I show the public, I actually show them damage the lining of the small intestines compared to normal small intestines. They can understand why you can't efficiently absorb nutrients through that. And but that's why the Asian people do not have near the diseases we do, because they live on rice and sweet potatoes and vegetables and fish. And so that type of diet will allow you to absorb more. And so that's why until they come here, they come to North America and eat like Canadians and Americans, they get all the diseases we get. But you go back to these Asian countries, and I've been to about 14 of them. And as you said, that one project with NIH, that my thesis is in the Smithsonian Institute is a national treasure, because nobody has ever done 20,000 autopsies before on 454 species, which included 3,000 humans. My wife and I, my wife, who's a Chinese microsurgeon, she taught at Harvard. I met her at the Texas Medical Center, and she and I did 1,700 autopsies of kids under the age of 10 in Qishan Province, China, who died of cardiomyopathy heart disease. Like these young athletes, they die suddenly. It's caused by the deficiency of a single nutrient. And I mean, we do these big projects on human autopsies. I think probably in human autopsies, I've done about 8,000 over the years, and about 40,000 animal autopsies of over 454 species. And so I don't think I'm smarter than anybody else, but nobody else has that experience. And that's why my thesis was published as a book, and that book is in the Smithsonian Institute as a national treasure, and everybody uses it as a reference point when they're doing research on these diseases.
Was that how you got nominated for the Nobel Prize?
Actually, it was actually because I had discovered the first non-human case of cystic fibrosis, and it turns out to be a deficiency of a single nutrient during pregnancy or immediately after birth. That's my 9th lawsuit against the FDA. We forced them to require it as a law for the manufacturers of baby formulas to put that nutrient into baby formulas. And within a couple of years, there will not be any more muscular dystrophy, cystic fibrosis, or SIDS, crib death, because this one nutrient in deficiency is the cause of those 3 diseases: muscular dystrophy, cystic fibrosis, and crib death, or SIDS. And so by putting it in there, as soon as babies are on formula, all those diseases go away. And it's just amazing. And we're able to put that nutrient and force them in federal court and beat them up pretty good on that. And it's supposed to have 60 minerals. You go look at baby formulas, they only have 5 or 6, and that's why we have so many things like SIDS and crib death and muscular dystrophy and cystic fibrosis. A lot of times they're born sort of semi-normal, but when they drink those formulas that have little or no nutrients in it, the disease really develops.
Wow. I can confirm, Doc, I got an 8-month-old baby. She hates formula, but whenever I buy formula for her, I'm looking for the most nutrient-dense formula that I can get for my child, as all parents should, if they're paying attention to this broadcast.
Are you giving your daughter the 90 cents of nutrients?
Yeah, we have the kids' watermelon vitamins from you guys, from Longevity.
There you go.
And then I'm making the baby's mama take as much of the vitamins as I can get her to take as well. BTT, EFAs, glucosamine. As much as I can get her.
So just one real quick comment. Kind of in a strange way, if you have forced the federal government to include that specific nutrient into baby formula, you're kind of responsible for saving maybe 50,000 lives a year. How do you feel about having that many children running around?
Well, it's a blessing to be able to save that many kids, and that's really why we do this. Because the experts in the Center for Disease Control are saying that our children will be the first generation of Americans that do not live as long as their parents. It's a horrible prospect. It's a horrible prediction. It's coming true as we speak by people who do not give supplements to their kids. And so we're trying to educate as many as we can, save as many as we can, and not be a failure like Noah was.
Proud, steadfast. Doc, we're going to go to our last commercial break. We got about 10 or 12 minutes left on the other side, and we got some darn good stuff to talk about still. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Veterans Take Charge Radio Show. We're online with Dr. Joel Wallach. We'll be right back.
Hi, registered pharmacist Ben Fuchs here. I've been studying healthy bodies for 35 years, and what I've got to tell you may shock and surprise you, but if you listen up, it may change your life. Leaky gut syndrome is a digestive condition where food enters the bloodstream through holes or leaks in a deteriorating intestinal lining. It's a major cause of blood toxicity, inflammatory symptoms, and chronic degenerative disease. It's largely the result of what we're eating, and that's good news. It places the control over our disease processes right in our kitchens and dining rooms. To reverse any degenerative illness, focus first on digestive health. Use supplements and nutrient-dense unprocessed whole foods, and you'll find you need to eat less. Eliminate gluten, grains, and other problematic foods, and support digestive function by chewing carefully. Acidifying the stomach by using apple cider vinegar or betaine HCl with meals can help. So can digestive enzymes taken with your food. Because sugar can accelerate the deterioration of the intestinal lining, go easy on the sweets. Use fiber and protein to combat sugar cravings, and always, always drink copious amounts of water if you fall off the sugar abstinence wagon. Moving your muscles and bones turns on healing chemistry. Just jumping on a rebounder or mini trampoline for a minute or two can improve detoxification. Don't forget to breathe. Low oxygenation of tissues is an important marker of illness. And lighten up and relax. Under conditions of stress, disease progresses and healing is impaired. Pharmacist Ben here, urging you to go to KSCOhealth.com to order Beyond Tangy Tangerine, the Healthy Start Pack, and other nutritional supplements that I personally use and recommend. You can purchase these premium quality products at wholesale prices online at KSCOhealth.com. That's KSCOhealth.com. I'm the pharmacist that believes that staying healthy and strong is not only about medicine, it's about giving your body the raw materials it needs to do its work. Go to KSCOhealth.com. Make sure you check out the cool videos too at KSCOhealth.com. That's KSCOhealth.com.
Proud and steadfast. Welcome back to the Veterans Take Charge radio show. We're online with Dr. Joel Wallach. We got about 10 minutes left. And Doc, thank you very much for being here, for being with us and talking all about all of your expertise and your protocol, all that good stuff.
Well, you're very kind. Thank you very much, and I appreciate the opportunity to share with you guys.
Rock and roll. So before we start talking about the business aspect of longevity, I have one quick question regarding any kind of clinical trials or publications that are there any clinical trials or any publications that are available to the general public about some of the specific premier products of longevity?
Yes, there's actually some, particularly in the Nature's Pearl division, 10-year studies by Wake Forest University. Then the Healthy Start Pack and some of our programs in there. We've done things with Clemson University in South Carolina. And then also in Manitoba in Canada, they looked at our products too. They did a big research project. So those are available.
Where are they available?
10-year. You can actually go online and look at those universities and longevity studies. Okay, go in your back office.
Perfect.
Manitoba, Clemson, and Wake Forest universities.
Where can they access all your publications, Doc?
They actually go to thewallachfiles.com, thewallachfiles.com. And then, of course, I've written 14 books. They're drjwallach.com, drjwallach.com, and thewallachfiles.com. You can actually see me in action a lot. Wallach Files got a lot of video of me in Africa catching rhino and things like that.
Awesome. I'm going to look into that. I haven't actually seen that website. I buy a bunch of my stuff from you on wellness publications.
Mm-hmm.
Veterans Take Charge store, hopefully soon, we will be carrying these books and able to distribute them because we've got to get this knowledge out sooner rather than later.
Yeah, we need to save as many of our boys and girls as we can. And we love our vets. We love our active military personnel. I just appreciate everything they do for everybody, and so we're going to, and I appreciate you guys being interested because it takes an army to save an army.
Doc, how can your business model, longevity, I mean, I see your guys' sales grow year after year. I've been a part of the company for 5 years. I'm a product of the product myself. I feel it working within me. It gives me a lot of hope. But the business model that you've created is so effective. It's ridiculous that people would even try to deny that it works. When I go to
basically, Justin,
go ahead.
I'm sorry. Well, I was going to say the business model is designed to leverage my time. Most doctors will see 25 to 35 patients a day, and they think they're busy. Well, I get 10,000 new patients a month, and basically we're in 55 countries, and so I had to leverage my time. And if I'm seeing 1 million patients a day, it's different than 25 patients a day. So I had to have a program that was pre-designed so that anybody could read the protocol book like a recipe book. What would you use a healthy blood sugar pack for? What would you use a healthy weight loss pack for? What would you use a healthy brain and heart pack for? What would you use the healthy bone and joint pack for? And so these are put together so that anybody with a 5th grade reading level could just say, or the Healthy Start Pack, which is, as the name implies, is the basic program that everybody would use whether you're sick or not. You cannot go wrong. You cannot go wrong. And so this empowers everybody in the world to do a better job for people they love and people they know than their doctor. And so we're very proud of that system. And basically, before excuse me, their signature dries, the ink dries in their signature in the application, they're already making thousands of dollars on their tax breaks. Excuse me, because when you have a longevity business, you get the same tax breaks as billionaires. We don't want to take away the tax breaks to billionaires. We want to get the tax breaks to billionaires. And you do that by owning your own little longevity business.
Yeah, because it's a corporation, right? You're basically a franchisee or a private contractor within the corporation, but you can use the corporate tax write-offs.
That is correct. We actually have a little book called Wall Street for Kids, and it teaches you how to build a business plan. So your own little longevity business can actually pay for and get tax deductions for it. Your monthly premiums for your health insurance, your monthly premiums for your life insurance. You can actually get a car that's paid for through us so that your business, just like there's many businesses that provide their employees car access to cars. They can have car privileges as part of their benefits. And so in your business plan, you can have your longevity business give you a free car, which is tax deductible. And so all the expenses of the car, the insurance, the maintenance, the car payments themselves are all tax deductible because the car is owned by your business. And in your business plan, it says you're going to get as a bonus, as a benefit, you're going to also get car privileges.
And I believe you guys have one of the easier car bonuses to earn in network marketing history.
That is correct. And of course, we want people to get that message out there. Personally, I do not take any money from the sale of the products because I want people to know that I'm doing this for the purpose as opposed to for the money.
And that right there, Doctor, speaks volumes. It shows that you're dedicated specifically to the health and not to the business development. And I love to hear that.
That's correct.
You know, one of the main incentives for me is after I joined the company, I've always been entrepreneurial by nature, and I know the value of being able to do big business deals, not just stuck with one-on-one traditional style network marketing. And one of the things that your company has done on several occasions is mergers and acquisitions of other companies or strategic alliances where a normal agent like myself could bring in thousands of people with another company's sales force and get credit for all of that in one transaction.
That is correct.
Why have you decided to let your company do this big business? I mean, isn't it a little more high risk? And what effect has it had on the growth of your company?
Well, you can grow two ways. Give people the tools, such as the CDs and DVDs and books, to so that they can duplicate and grow by one by one by one. My best month when I was a distributor before I owned the company, I signed up 3,000 people one by one by one in 1 month, and that's a great story. And so I kind of learned how to do that, and it's all in this book, Wall Street for Kids. And so it's been a blessing. We've actually acquired, as you said, have strategic alliances and acquisitions of 22 companies now, I think, just a couple of them in the last month. And this has brought us, millions of customers and distributors, thousands of great products. And so we're very, very proud of that. We have a habit of now companies are coming to us and want to merge with us and, or become strategically aligned, or actually they want us to acquire them so that we take care of the warehousing, the manufacture, the shipping, and all that kind of stuff, and they're out there just getting the message out.
Yeah. I'm amazed by the way that Longevity Corporate operates. I mean, it's almost militaristic in itself, really.
It is. It is. For most of our guys there, we have so many military police and people of a lot of Navy, Marines, Air Force, Army, Coast Guard. I mean, we have a lot of employees who've been in the military, so it is run like a military operation.
And I would expect nothing less from you, sir.
Well, thank you for your kind words.
We're running low on time here. We're just about out. Dr. Wallach, there's so much more to cover. I have to be honest. I would like to do another broadcast with you where we go throughout the entire human life cycle and the importance of the nutrition at conception. The importance of nutrition during...
I mean, even before conception, because the body of the woman has to be like a healthy creche for this developing thing. And if it's if it's not healthy before day one, then you're already broken.
Exactly.
Strong swimmers.
Well, and the male needs...
Well, I'll be honored, and let's do it.
Awesome. I look forward to it. Let me see. We got 2 minutes.
We got 2 minutes.
Do we have any other questions?
There's so many questions. There are so many. You know, I wanted to talk about oxidation and oxidative stress because hyperbaric oxygen therapy brings in so much oxygen, and then there's the idea of free radicals. And would that be counterintuitive? Because free radicals can like damage all the tissues and whatnot. But that's a conversation for a whole different day.
Let him answer.
Okay. Well, yeah. Basically, you're exactly right. If you're going to be doing hyperbaric oxygen on a regular basis, you better be taking your 90 essential nutrients and some extra secret sauces that are antioxidants. So you don't turn out to be like a sliced apple that turns, oxidizes and rusts, and you see the oxidative damage in the apple in about a half hour just sitting out in the air. That will happen to you with hyperbaric oxygen if you don't have enough antioxidants come in. So you got to be careful. You got to watch it.
So the bottom line up front, Mighty 90.
Mighty 90. And not only will we survive, but we will prevail. And I'm just so happy that you guys are into this because we're going to save more and more and more and more military personnel by getting them on the 90. Even if we just have to start we actually have a nonprofit section, and so we're kind of working with our nonprofit section, which is when there's there's storms and hurricanes, we donate a lot of stuff to people.
Be the Change Foundation.
There you go. Be the change. And
hey, Doc, we are out of time.
Proud and steadfast,
well,
Doc. Thank you very much.
Okay, gentlemen, thank you so much. You're very kind, and we look forward to doing this again, and we'll do great things together. Let's save America.
Yes, sir.
God bless America.
Proud and steadfast. This is the Veterans Take Charge radio show.
KSCO, Santa Cruz.
Blake was caught on an open mic saying the GOP was toast because it's become the party of Donald Trump and Alabama Senate candidate Roy Moore, who's embroiled in a sexual misconduct scandal. But Senate Republicans are planning a big push for their bill.
I'm Tom Foti. Count Maine Republican Susan Collins among the undecideds as the GOP tax overhaul package makes its way through the Senate. On the first version to come out of the Finance Committee,